Hello and welcome to the special talk program on Nepal television. I am Devendra Subedi. Following the updating of the map of Nepal, the administrative and political map, there have been some development, and we here at Nepal television have been conducting special talk programs, a series on this issue. After updating the map, now the government is trying to amend the constitution through which it will be enshrined in the constitution of Nepal, the new political and administrative map. And the official statement from India has been that it rejects the new administrative map of Nepal while opening the door for political discussions and diplomatic discussions to resolve this issue. Today in this series we have invited former minister and leader of the opposition party, main opposition party, Nepali Congress, Dr. Minendra Rijal. Dr. Rijal, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Opposition's religion is to oppose what the government does, basically based on its merits. Now, Nepali Congress has come together along with other parties on this issue. What brings all these parties, especially Nepali Congress, together?
It's a very natural thing because we were together while writing the constitution. So I've said it many times, as far as the constitution is concerned, as far as implementation of the constitution is concerned, we are not opposition. We were the party that led the process of writing the constitution. We're together with other parties. Some of them, at least two largest of them, are in the government now. So as far as constitution is concerned, we are together. We are not, there is no opposition. There is no ruling party. But the regular business of the government, on that one, we are opposition and government is government. This is our territory. This has been established fact right since the treaty that we signed with British India in 1816 AD. Everybody in Nepal is together on this one. I mean, this is not an issue. Some Nepalese in support of it, and others in the opposition of it. No, I mean, we are all together, no matter where, how we are situated.
In 1860, the treaty seems to have been revised by the then British rulers of India. Did the problem start from there, 1860?
No, they could not revise it. I mean, how could they revise the treaty?
I mean,
one of the map that was published identifies Kali as a river originating from Lipulek, which is wrong. But every document, right since 1816 to these supplementary documents signed in 1816 and many others throughout the history, I mean, very clearly designates that Kali originates in Limpuadhura, and then land to the east of Kali belongs to Nepal, and land to the west of Kali belongs to India. That this has been established fact, and the evidences are stored in archivals of U.S. Library of Congress library, and then in the British Museum, and of course in many other places. So I guess, I mean, one of the things we all have to recognize is this is territory of Nepal. And several times we brought this to the notice of Indian government. In 2000, Prime Minister Girija Prasad Koirala brought this up, and since then it's been recognized by both countries as outstanding border issue. In 1994, this is recognized as pending issue, and as lately as when the government of Nepal wrote about the secretary level meeting to finalize this issue, Government of India wrote back saying that once our two societies and governments are done dealing with the COVID-19 crisis, we can hold meeting and resolve it to the satisfaction of both the countries.
Well, do you really think it's the COVID-19 that is stopping both the countries to make diplomatic efforts, especially India?
No, but had it been so, then the road should not have been inaugurated. I mean, there cannot be a timing which is worse than what India decided to do it. I mean, both countries, the entire world, I mean, is suffering the pandemic. And India had already written documents saying that once we're done with this, we can sit down. And all of a sudden, the road is inaugurated. I mean, and then again, virtual inauguration.
Yeah.
Why did they need to do that? I mean, Nepal and India are very close countries. I mean, we are as close as any two countries can get in the world. India is larger, stronger, but that does not mean that our claims should be dishonored at a time when the whole world is suffering from COVID-19 pandemic.
So is our dependency on India on many factors the reason that India is taking this for granted?
No, not dependency, I would not say. I mean, what I will say is India probably thought that on this show Nepal probably will just stay and would not push it as much as it should. But India has to recognize, I mean, we've been raising this since 1994 consistently in every bilateral meeting. Every bilateral meeting this issue has come up until the EPZ report was prepared, which still needs to be submitted to the Prime Minister of India. And the latest communication between our two governments also brings this up. So, and India also has recognized this is an outstanding issue, no matter how strong the statement Indian government has given, the last one I mean, but still the last line that's important says it has to be resolved through diplomatic means. So, I mean, why did India do this? I do not know. I mean, I cannot imagine anything worse than this.
As you mentioned about the diplomatic, let's say, efforts and the statement from the Indian side, it has kept open the doors for diplomatic efforts to resolve this problem. However, the Indian media, some of the discourses which you have been part of, has been fueling this issue in a very nationalistic point of view. What do you say about it?
I would not sit down here and debate with some of the people in Indian media. I very strongly believe that the foreign policy is led by the government. The government today, government of the day, leads the foreign policy. We as in opposition, we do not conduct foreign policy. Any political party does not conduct foreign policy. Government of Nepal, the federal government of Nepal conducts the foreign policy. And I have said it, within the country, outside, we fully lend our support to the government of Nepal as far as the border issue is concerned. We are together, we have the same understanding, and it's not the understanding between the ruling party and the main opposition. It's the understanding of entire nation. And my earnest request to the Indian government and policymakers there would be, please listen to what Nepal's been saying. And even if you do not listen to, and even if you do not empathize with that, just look at the evidence. We are ready and willing to sit down. Government of Nepal is ready and willing to sit down with the evidence. I mean, the government of India can also do that. Both sides produce evidences, and then this will be resolved based on the evidence. On that one, we have absolutely no problem. But having somebody on media shout or curse Nepal for that matter, or bring in any other country in this matter, probably is not something that it's very
constructive,
very nice of the particular media house or the particular person. But as a government, as a nation, as a political party, I would not be going after him or a particular establishment. This is something that has to be resolved between government of Nepal and government of India. Government of Nepal has our support, and government of Nepal will take the right initiatives. And whenever there is a need for our support, our advice on this matter, we'll certainly do that.
Do you agree the earlier governments did not make enough efforts since that long, especially after the restoration of democracy? This issue has been championed a bit stronger.
No, I can argue a very strong case that some of the governments did take a very reasonable stand and have consistently pursued it. Government of Day probably would feel good to say that government of past probably did not make enough effort, and that's why we have to do what we are doing now. I mean, that's like, I mean, that should be, that I would characterize as shrugging off. Let's not do that. I mean, that's not going to help anybody. This had to be done. We had together in it, and since 1994, successive governments have brought this up in all bilateral meetings, and I guess if I were to say my narrative, I would say, please, Government of India, listen to this. I mean, we've raised this consistently since 1994. We're very serious about it, but we've been very restrained because this deals with, this relates with the relationship between Nepal and India, India being our closest friend from times immemorial. So we don't want anything to be stressed beyond it needs to be between Nepal and India. But that does not mean that our resolve and our unity on this one is any less stronger than it should be.
Dr. Rijal, as you mentioned, since 1994, many governments have stood on this. They have raised this issue. Many bilateral mechanisms still are active. And of course, there in between was a very well-known group called EPZ, Eminent Persons Group, which was very, very comprehensive in its reporting, and with the participation of both the sides, a comprehensive report has been tabled. Why the, let's say, findings, suggestions, recommendations of these bilateral mechanisms mean nothing to India?
I'm not going to go on that, because I mean, probably you should ask this question to Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. If I start answering questions that the government will be most qualified to answer, I probably will not help the issue that's on the table. I would be hard pressed to find a pair of countries in the world which have as close ties as Nepal and India do. But that does not mean that India can just ignore the issue that we have raised so seriously for such a long time.
Dr. Rijal, does the lack of presence of the government till now in those far-flung areas, as you can see in the far west corner of the country, helped India lay the claim over those territories?
Could be, but I guess, I mean, to me what's very important is, I mean, getting this done, getting a diplomatic resolution, providing lending full support to the government, and as a Nepali citizen, try to gather as much evidence as we can to establish our claim is more important. Speculating, analyzing, evaluating, I mean, that's not my job. I'm in politics, I'm a member of parliament. I rather do what we need to do than do work or say or reflect as an academic. To me, I mean, this is Nepal's territory, and Nepal's territorial integrity is important. India should understand the sensitivity and should honor the evidence that's been there.
Personally, do you feel that we should have a stronger presence there? For example, the BOP has just been established in Darchula.
I would certainly say that government has to make the necessary preparations and should make the call as to how should we move on this one without creating unnecessary tension, but in such a fashion that our resolve is understood by India, our determination is understood by India, and India also feels good to recognize our legitimate claim of the territory we're talking about.
So, from both the narratives of both the sides, our as well as India's, there is no other alternative but to seek for a diplomatic resolution to this problem.
But having said that, as a Nepali, am I not frustrated a bit with India? Of course, I am frustrated, because since 1994 means 26 years have passed by, and still the solution's not in the sight. That's not a very nice situation or cozy situation or comfortable situation to be in. But we've been very restrained. We've been very restrained. Nepal has tried its best not to let Nepal and Indo-Nepal relationship suffer any setback because of this. But India has to recognize this issue has been outstanding.
As a common Nepali, the frustrations level are high. Do you mean to say that it's high time India does it? Listen to us.
Of course. People in general, almost everybody out there, consider Nepal as a very close friend. Many Indians do not even recognize that there is anything that separates our two countries. But people at some level, I would not say all of them, some people have at times when they were at the policy making level, decision making level, have shown or done things that makes Nepali people feel hurt, makes feel that Nepal's pride's been compromised. But that does not mean that we should also do something that unnecessarily provokes India. We should recognize that there's tremendous amount of goodwill among Indian people for Nepal. We also have tremendous amount of goodwill for Indian people, among Nepali people, but that does not mean that our territories should continue to be in the possession of India. India should honor our territorial claim and show the best example to the world that two nations, large and small, can respect each other, survive together, and can build commonality of interest in the international arena.
We often hear this sentimental discourse saying we have a roti betis relation or something like that, and then again we, in a sense, become a bit more sentimental. Are we a bit more sentimental in this issue?
And yes, we are, but if they like it, that's fine. I'm fine with that. To me, India is a very close friend, has been so since time immemorial, and I will repeat this. I would be hard pressed to find any pair of country in the world which are as close as India and Nepal are, and anything should not be done from either side that undermines this relationship. I'm not asking for them for being forgiving to us or conceding to us. I'm just saying that this is our legitimate claim, and India should respect and honor our legitimate claim, and so to the world that India is respectful of its neighbors as far as their legitimate claim on territory is concerned. Or
is there any way we can go further than the diplomatic efforts, maybe the international level?
And this is what I've been hearing from the government. Government has until now said that this is it. This will be resolved through diplomatic means. We have not been briefed otherwise, right? And so I would not do anything that will undermine the effort that government's making. I have full trust in what the government is doing. Government has to deliver on this one. They cannot say if and but on one pretext or the other pretext. Anything, any support they want, we will provide, lend that support. Government should not use any pretext to fail. They cannot afford to fail. Any support that's needed will be forthcoming from our side.
That's a pretty strong statement, Dr. Rijal, as a leader of the opposition leader as well. And that strong support you are giving to the government to resolve this issue diplomatically, of course, at this point of time.
If government thinks otherwise, they can always consult with us. We are always ready and open to listen to what the government has to say. But government has said that the government has said and they're confident that this will be resolved through diplomatic means. We are with the government.
I don't know whether this would be a right place and time to ask you this question. In a recent report, reportedly a former diplomat to Nepal, Indian diplomat to Nepal, was reported saying that India will now use its so-called assets in Nepal to lobby against the government on this issue and settle this, subside this issue. Was that
I would not comment on statements that are not really worth commenting. I have seen people, a lot of people are they keep on saying whatever they would like to. I mean, in today's world, I mean, people will start writing and saying things, and that gets to public so quickly because of the technology that's available today. Even without thinking through, a lot of statements are made. And if somebody has said it, I do not know if somebody has said it or not. If somebody has said it, that's unfortunate, right? But here, I mean, I would not be the right person to answer this question, because I cannot weaken the government. I don't want to weaken the government, right? We are a very small opposition. As far as the strength in the parliament is concerned, we are 22% is only. We cannot even move vote of no confidence against the government. So if there is anything that's brewing up, then I would say, is it within the ruling party?
At least the opposition
it cannot be us.
Okay.
It cannot be us.
Dr. Rijal, we are coming to the conclusion of this conversation. Lipu Lake is a 3-country pass involving, of course, the Nepal's territory, but bordering India and China as well. As we can see in this particular map on our screen as well, the farthest corner of the Limpiadhura.
That's Limpiadhura. Lipu Lake is not.
Somewhere here.
No.
There.
Limpiadhura is...
at the circle, at the edge of the circle there is Lipu Lake.
But you said border among 3 countries.
Yeah. Now, do you think...
Limpiadhura is at the borders. 3 countries
side.
Do border there.
That side. So, now, do you see the involvement of all 3 sides in resolving this issue, or this is just a bilateral thing?
No, as far as border issue is concerned, this particular thing, right? China has made it amply clear. China was not very clear at the beginning. In 2015, we were in the government. I was spokesperson of the government, Minister of Communication then. When India and China signed an understanding to build a road, then we said, no, you cannot do that. I mean, that involves our territory. But I mean, the recent statement that I've seen is, I mean, China has said that nothing that's of bilateral interest should be decided unilaterally. So I would not try to drag China into it. By dragging China into it, I guess, I mean, we are not going to help ourselves. And I guess in bilateral relationship between Nepal and India, why should China be involved? And China would not. China is wise enough not to involve itself. And I would certainly can say the same thing about India also. As far as bilateral relationship between China and Nepal are concerned, India would be wise enough not to involve it.
The map of Nepal in the earlier period used to have those territories. Was that a mistake in between that we just excluded that territory and published another map?
That happened only once.
Yeah.
Has happened only once. But I mean, if you look at many other maps since 1816, almost all of them included that. Even in the archival that exists in the US, in UK, and many other countries, I mean, it's pretty clear that that's Nepal's part of the territory. But I mean, I should just say thanks to the wonderful work Dr. Buddhinarayan Shrestha and people who have supported him have done, that this has very well established, or I should say beyond any doubt has been established, and we can present evidence to anybody who be willing to take a look at it. But resolution has to be done between Nepal and India. We very strongly feel that there is a diplomatic solution to it, and solution has to be found between India and Nepal. But the evidence so overwhelmingly clear that any rational person can very clearly come to the senses and conclusion that Limpiadhura, Lipu Lake, and Kalapani belong to Nepal and part of the Nepal's territory.
Final question, Dr. Rijal. As a seasoned politician yourself, as a former minister yourself, what suggestions you would give to the government of Nepal at this point of time, personally?
I'll simply say that Anything that you want, we are there to support you. Do things that are prudent. Don't try to, don't do anything that might create or even minor sense of division among Nepalese on this one. Do not do anything that somebody might use to question the patriotism of any Nepali. All Nepalese are patriotic, and questioning any Nepalese patriotism is not going to help us. We are all together in it. Even if there are some comments that probably is not at par, I mean, we can still ignore that, because almost everyone in this country, and I said not even almost, everyone is in it together. So I mean, if the government does something that can be interpreted as using this to get a political advantage, that's not going to help the cause that's common to all Nepali people. So it's a cause common to every Nepali. It's a cause common to all political parties, and it's a cause common to everybody who is a good wisher, well-wisher of Nepal. So government should be very careful not to do anything that gives an impression that's otherwise.
And the opposition, the main opposition, Nepali Congress, is behind the government on this particular issue.
We completely support the government, but it's for the government to deliver.
Thank you so much.
We'll be watching. Any support you need, this is our message to the government. Any support you need, we're there to lend that support. But she have to deliver.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rijal, for your time on this series of special talk shows. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we're talking to a former minister and very outspoken and very clear leader of the main opposition Nepali Congress, Dr. Minendra Rijal, on the issue of Nepal's updated map, including the 3 territories which belong to Nepal, that is Lipulek, Limpiadhura and Kalapani, and the subsequent claims of India on those territories. We will continue this series in further programs as well. Thank you so much for being with us. Until next time, from all of us here at the program, goodbye and namaste.